Hi guys, I am going to do my theme of the week with Dyani. This week's theme was Super Bowl football. And I don't have anything for either Super Bowl teams, as I'm not a fan really of either. I know Carl Wentz is actually, was the quarterback for my college team. I actually went to college where he graduated from. And while I'm a huge fan of that football team, I was a fan of his. I'm still kind of a fan of his. I'll watch the Eagles, but I'm not really an Eagles fan, so to say. And I am a Vikings fan all the way, so if anybody knows anything about football, you'll understand what I'm talking about with that. So anyways, I don't have anything either team, but I did have this adorable football swaddle blanket that I decided to put on Dyani. And then he's got his football nook, which keeps moving around on him. There we go. So he looks so cute in his little football swaddler. It's brown like a football. And then it's got the football lines on the belly, or the top, and then he's got his brown football pacifier that has the little lines on it like a football. And I thought today I would do a tag along with it, since obviously this wouldn't be a very long video just showing him in his cute little bunting, or swaddler. I am going to do the tag by Baby Bunting Nursery. And the tag is, when did I start liking dolls? I have liked dolls my whole life. As a child, I loved dolls. I had dolls as a child. I had a particular doll as a child, Rebecca, that she was a talking doll, and my dad absolutely hated her. And he was so happy the day that my cousin decided to feed her water, and she stopped talking, because she had a hole in her mouth that you could put like this little bottle that she came with and a pacifier, and both of them were like had like a huge long like probe on them that you put in her mouth that would get her to stop talking. And then you'd put the bottle in her mouth and you would squeeze. The bottle was empty because you'd squeeze the bottle and like it would puff air into her, and then she'd make a sucking noise as you puffed the air into her. But my cousin decided to put water in the bottle one day, and that kind of destroyed her. My dad tried taking the batteries out more than once, and I was not a dumb kid. I would check it out and realize there were no batteries in it, and would demand batteries to be put back in her. So I had her as a child. I loved Magic Nurse. I had Cabbage Patches as well. Growing up, I absolutely loved Magic Nursery dolls when they came out. I don't know how many of those I had. I had quite a few. My best friend and I at the time, her and I, that's all we ever did was play Magic Nursery dolls. Then, as I got a little bit older, I started getting into American Girl dolls. I still have my Molly from childhood, my Molly McIntyre. And yeah, I've loved dolls my whole life. Molly was probably, she wasn't. I'm not even going to go there thinking about it. So I had Molly, and one of my best friends now, her and I met in 6th grade, and her and I used to play with our American Girls a lot. She had Molly, Felicity, Molly, Kristen, Samantha, Felicity, Addie, and Josephine. Those are the ones that she had. And she had a lot of the items to go with them. Actually, some of the stuff that I have for my American Girl dolls came from her. I bought it from her. She was going through some stuff at her parents' house, and she asked me if I'd like to buy it. Or she was listing a few items. And then her and I started talking, and I'm like, what would you want for the whole everything? And she gave me a price, and I talked to my husband, and he's like, yeah, that's doable, as long as she'll take payments, because it wasn't a cheap amount of money, but I did get a lot of stuff, and I was able to sell off some of the stuff I didn't want to keep. and or stuff that I had doubles of, and kind of make some of my money back. But you know, it's nice to have some of her stuff. She wanted to keep it for her daughter, but her daughter's actually afraid of dolls. So she was just going to get rid of it. And then she's like, you know what? I know you love dolls. I know you love American Girl dolls. And my daughter loves American Girl dolls. So that's why she gave it to me all for a steal. Because she's like, I know realistically I can put this all on eBay, but I don't have the time to do that. So I have my American Girl dolls. Molly kind of got packed up as high school kicked in, and then in, was it 11th grade, my friend and I, on a whim, bought these like little Cabbage Patch dolls. They were about this big. I think my daughter has mine. And that was when NSYNC was really big, and her and I would pretend I was married to Justin and she was married to Joey. And we would pretend those are our babies, and like her and I would just goof around with them. Like we didn't take them anywhere or do anything with them, but we would just play around with our babies. She would sleep over at my house practically all weekend, every weekend. So she'd bring her baby with, and we'd play with them. And even in between there, like I would occasionally pull out my play dolls from childhood and kind of play with them in secret, because I was always told, oh, you're too old to play with toys, you're too old to play with toys, you're too old to play with dolls. Then I kind of packed everything up going on to college, and in high school, my junior or sophomore year was when I was introduced to the Baby Think It Over program. My school had, at that point, had the Generation 4 and 5s. They had a mix of both. When I did the project for my class, I had a Generation 4 Caucasian boy that I named, what did I name him? Anthony Justin. Where AJ, or I call them TJ for short. And I named him after my high school crush. Justin was his name. And then his last name was what the doll had. And my friends thought it was hysterical because I got the doll third period, and second period or fourth period I actually had with my crush. So I had to take the doll to my next class. And like we'd be sitting there, and, like my friends and I were passing around the doll, because obviously this was a Generation 4. You didn't have to head support it. You just had that death key, as I called it, because your fingers always, or the finger crusher key. And the baby didn't cry at all during class, but my friends were like, he keeps looking over at it. I wonder if he knows that it's his. I mean, they were just joking around with it. And I was sad when I had to give it back the following Monday morning, because I got it on a Friday. Then I really liked the dolls. I took another class the next year with the same teacher, and while part of the curriculum we didn't have to bring the dolls home, at the end of the year after her class that does the Baby Think It Over program, I was able to bring home one of the dolls just because I wanted to, because I love the dolls so much. And then senior year I got to bring home a doll again the same way. After my senior year was when they bought, or my school upgraded to the original Realcare or Gen 6, depending upon who you're talking to is what it's called. And my freshman year in high school, I wrote a paper about teen pregnancy and how schools were trying to combat that with the simulators. So my teacher, or contacting my teacher, she actually let me borrow one of the Gen 6 dolls. And when I had that, she actually turned it on and everything. She sent me with the programmer, so if I wanted to turn it off. But I kept him on the whole time, just to kind of see what I got as a score. And like that's when I loved the look of the dolls to start out with. And after doing the Gen 6, I'm like, I need one of these. I want one of these. So I started looking on eBay. And I didn't really I found a few on there, but they were so expensive. There's no way I could afford that. So I just kind of tucked that dream away and to never think of it again, or so I thought. I then met my husband, and he purchased me what was called a My Way baby. It was like a doll kiosk in a mall. Or it was a mall kiosk that had these dolls, and they were for sale for Christmas. And after Christmas, they had a clearance because they were trying to get rid of the dolls before they closed the kiosk for the season. And he purchased me one there that I thought looked like him as he was a baby, because I had seen a few baby pictures of him. And I kind of bought, he's about the size of a Lee Middleton toddler doll. So I was able to buy him some real baby clothes, and I wanted something for him to sleep in my room, and I knew realistically I couldn't have a full-size pack and play. My parents would think I was nuts getting the doll-size pack and play the way it was. But I was at Toys R Us and saw this doll-size pack and play, and I kind of wanted to learn more about it, and that was kind of when reviews online were coming out. So I went to Toys R Us website, because when I saw it at the store, I also didn't check the price. So about a week later, I was talking to, he was my boyfriend at the time, my now husband. I was talking to him, and I'm like, I really want to get this little playpen for him so he can sleep in my room in it. And he's like, well, how much is it? So I looked on Toys R Us website, and I found the price, and he's like, yeah, when I come down, we can go get it. And I'm like, okay, great. Well, then I started reading the reviews, and I found somebody kept talking about an electronic neonate, and that this little toy playpen held the weight of the electronic neonate. And I'm thinking, what the heck is an electronic neonate? So I searched it on Toys R Us's website, and nothing came up. So then I did a Google search, and that's when I found the neonate website. And that was on like February 1st. Somewhere like around there. Jack! And I found out the company was closing. I found the dolls right away. I saw that all the electronic neonates were sold out, and that everything was 50% off because they were closing on February 7th. So I called my husband instantly. I'm like, oh my gosh, you will not believe this. There's these dolls called neonates, and they're like the dolls that they use in schools, that I fell in love with the molds, and I just love them as dolls. And I just kept going on and on and on about it, and finally he's like, you know what, just buy one. So he gave me I was trying to buy one, so I called the company, because I couldn't get it. I can't remember if you had to call them to purchase, or if, I don't think you could purchase them online. You had to call the 800 number. So I called the 800 number, and I talked to the lady, got everything set up. And at first I was going to use my credit card. Well, they didn't take Discover card, and that was the only credit card I had at the time. So I was like, literally in tears. So I'm like, I need to call my boyfriend and see what he has to say. So I called him, and he's like, just use my card. So he purchased it. It got shipped to him, and that would be Skylar. And Skylar was the one that kind of started it all. Well, the My Way baby was the one that kind of started it all, but from there on out, I was hooked. We took Skylar with us pretty much everywhere we went, even though he was a play doll and not an electronic doll. A few months later, with a payment plan, I was able to work out with one of the eBay sellers to get a Generation 6 Baby Think It Over. Now at this time, Baby Think It Over, this was still the Baby Think It Over company, they were locked down. You had to be a school. That was the only way you could purchase the dolls, was through a school. And like, I never asked my teacher. I'm pretty sure if I would have asked my teacher, for my consumer science teacher, she probably would have purchased one for me, but I didn't think about that. As well as, at that point, you could also go on to Baby Think It Over's website, and they had their prices listed. So I was actually able to get the doll for less than what Reality Works or Baby Think It Over sold the doll as, and he came with everything he needed. So he was on a few-week payment plan, got him paid off. I got him, and then I ended up sending him in and getting Reborn. I named him Jaden. And then my best friend bought me Tiffany, my Native American girl. And then in the meantime, I also found a few generation, I can't remember if they were 4 or 5 babies. I know one was a Hispanic girl on Goodwill auction site. I got them for a good price. So within the first year, I had quite a few. I went from just Skylar to, I had Skylar and Jaden. Then I got Tiffany from my friend. Then I also, I had that girl. I had them for about a year, and then about a year later was when Reality Works released the Realcare 2. And then when they released the Realcare 2, or still Baby Think It Over, they actually opened up where you could be a private person to purchase the dolls, because people from homeschools were kind of a little upset in like private organizations. So they opened up buying, and I was able to purchase Caden, a Native girl. So I had 2 Caucasian boys and 2 Native girls. And then I got a few more, like I said, throughout the years, like if I found within a price range that I could afford some generation 4 or 5s, I'd purchase them. Then I ended up selling Caden, the Native girl, to my friend Yvonne, because that is when they came out with the new face mold, the new Japanese face mold, and I fell in love with that. Like, I already have a Native girl. I'm going to sell Caden to buy a Japanese girl. So I sold Caden to my friend, and then I was able to turn around and buy Tristan, my Realcare 2 Japanese girl, and that was the new head. Then I sold Jaden so that I could purchase I still had Jaden. So then a few years later, they came out with the 2+, and I sold Jaden so that I could buy a 2+. And at that point, I decided to get a light African American male. And at one point, I had, I want to say 7 or 8 Realcares, and I had 4 neonates. And I sold all my Realcares and just kept the neonates. And I had them for a while until, I want to say like 3 years ago, I found the control unit listed weird on eBay, just on a whim looking, and I told my husband, I'm like, I'm going to buy it because it's such a good price, and he's like, you don't even have a doll. I'm like, I'll worry about that later. It's easier to get the dolls than it is to get the control unit. So I got the control unit, and then not long after, I found a Japanese male on eBay for a good price, so I purchased him. And then about 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, I got Luna, but I still had my neonates packed away, and that's when I started my organization, was with the boy and Luna. And I seriously, what did I name the boy? Soan, I think was what I named the boy. And I sold him, I don't even, why did I sell him? I sold him to get one of my other ones. Who did I sell him to get? I don't remember who I got after Luna. I'll have to look back on. Well, I didn't even do that because I think I just straight out sold him. Because I wasn't really planning on doing anything with him, and I just decided to keep Luna. And that's when I had Ryan at that point. So I had started making my videos, and I really didn't show Luna that much. And then finally, when we finally found Cynthia's babies, was when I came back into wanting to play around with more and collecting them again. And so in the last year, I literally went from having Luna to having one of each race except for the native, not the native, the light African boy. But in fairness, I already had the Caucasian male, Native American girl, light African girl, dark African girl, and Hispanic boy. So I did have 5 and then Luna to start out with. So, this video kind of went longer than I expected, but I hope you enjoyed my history of doll collecting. And I hope you give this a thumbs up and subscribe if you already haven't. And I will see everyone later. Bye!